ABC 10 News at 7 starts now.
The cases, though, in the state of California have doubled just in the last 10 days.
Governor Newsom says he is pulling the emergency brake on the state's efforts to reopen its economy. Our cases are spiking like never before. Good evening. I'm Kimberly Hunt.
And I'm Steve Atkinson. Our ABC 10 News anchor Vanessa Van Hefty has the new restrictions announced just today.
Governor Gavin Newsom sounding the alarm, COVID-19 cases doubling in California in the last 10 days.
This is simply the fastest increase California has seen since the beginning of this pandemic.
Shattering a previous record set in June, this map of purple up and down the state shows 41 counties now in the most restrictive purple tier, as opposed to just 13 last week. San Diego County and LA counties both in that purple tier, accounting for just under half of the state's daily case average of 8,198. Hospitalizations have also shot up with a 48% increase over the last 2 weeks. Governor Gavin Newsom announcing more restrictive measures Monday. Counties will now move back into tiers every week instead of every 2 weeks. Governor Newsom says the good news Monday, Pfizer and Moderna are both making strides in the trials of their mass vaccinations.
I think some positive developments and some encouraging signs in terms of the proverbial light at the end of this very long, dark tunnel.
And with the holidays approaching, Governor Newsom continued to hammer down on safety protocols, admonishing those who gather in large groups.
You have done more. You have done better.
Vanessa Van Hefty, ABC 10 News.
And today's move means 41 of the state's 58 counties are now in that purple tier, including Orange County, as Vanessa mentioned. And all high school and youth sports competitions, they will continue to be paused. And Newsom says more restrictions could be announced later this week. That may include a business curfew to try and limit the time people spend at stores and restaurants.
Meantime, the governor is formally apologizing for attending a birthday party that violated the COVID protocols that he's been preaching. Newsom and his wife attended an event a couple of weeks ago for a longtime friend at the French Laundry in the Napa Valley, with more than 3 households recommended. And the governor nor his aides would say how many households, but they admitted it was over the limit. Today, the governor admitted that he should have left the dinner and promised to do better moving forward.
The spirit of what I'm preaching all the time was contradicted, and I got to own that. And so I want to apologize to you because I need to preach and practice, not just preach and not practice. And I've done my best to do that. We're all human. We all fall short sometimes.
Newsom says that he's only gone out to dinner about 3 times since February. The county says it handed out 10 cease and desist letters today alone to businesses not complying with the purple tier rules. And just in the last hour, we got a hold of that list. It includes 5 locations of the Fit Athletic Club chain. There are also 4 Yoga Box locations that got notices, along with the Awaken Church in Carlsbad. Non-complying businesses will start being listed on the county's website, and today supervisors made it clear they're not kidding around.
We need your cooperation, and we certainly need your compliance. But if not, we are fully prepared to enforce compliance with our local law enforcement agencies and other jurisdictions.
Well, some mayors and law enforcement agencies have said they will not strictly enforce the rules.
Yesterday was our highest one-day number of COVID cases to date. Today, we had our second highest day. The county reported 833 new cases. That brings our total to 65,000. There were no new deaths, which is typical for a Monday, so that total remains at 926. Despite the spike in our cases, hundreds of people rallied at Waterfront Park this afternoon. They were all calling on local and state leaders to let businesses reopen. A smaller group marched along Broadway earlier in the day. The protesters say the restrictions are not only hurting business owners, but their staff as well.
Some of us are in danger of losing our homes. We're definitely in danger of losing our businesses, and we just had enough. Enough is enough.
Elected officials, including Supervisor Jim Desmond and the mayors of El Cajon and Coronado, took part today as well.
As we touched on earlier, Moderna announced today its COVID vaccine is nearly 95% effective. Several trials of that vaccine are happening right here in San Diego. Our Lindsay Pena spoke to one of the study doctors about the promising results.
Back in August, tens of thousands of people began the final phase of testing for Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine, some of them right here in San Diego.
Each participant received 2 doses of the study drug. So either they received the vaccine or they received a placebo.
Dr. Steven Spector is conducting the trial at UCSD, which includes 336 people.
Individuals who are over 65 years of age, and another group, almost 10%, were individuals who had other risk factors.
He says they tried to closely mimic the racial demographics of our area.
Just under 50% of people, 48.5% were white, almost 40% Hispanic, 3.5% Black, African American, and 4.5% Asian.
According to Moderna, of the total number of patients nationally who received the vaccine, only 5 got the virus.
This is an extraordinarily exciting result.
Unlike the Pfizer vaccine, which was recently announced to be 90% effective, Moderna's doesn't need to be kept at extremely cold temperatures and can be stored in a common freezer. Dr. Spector says that's a huge advantage for distribution.
Very few doctors' offices and clinics have access to that minus 70-degree freezer.
Moderna says it will apply for emergency FDA approval within weeks and could have millions of doses shipped out in the U.S. by the end of the year. But Dr. Spector says it's important to remember that those will likely go to first responders and very high-risk people. Lindsay Pena, ABC 10 News.
You can stay on top of new developments with coronavirus by downloading the 10 News app. A free version is available in the App Store.
These 2 brothers are going to prison in connection to the killing of a Navy sailor who stopped to be a good Samaritan on the freeway. Our ABC 10 News reporter Jennifer Kastner has the punishments that were handed down today.
The sailor who was killed had enlisted 2 years earlier and was working as a steel worker on base in Coronado. Behind a plexiglass barrier Monday afternoon sat brothers Edson Acuna and Brandon Acuna, who learned their sentences following the 2018 shooting death of Navy sailor Curtis Adams. The judge read Edson's term to the courtroom.
Therefore, the total term imposed will be this: life without parole.
Life without the possibility of parole, plus 25 years to life, plus 27 years and 4 months. He was ordered to pay $10,000 in restitution and pay for associated fines.
He's going to be in prison for the rest of his life until he draws his last breath, and I think that will give him time to pay these from prison wages.
Edson was convicted by jury of first-degree murder, while Brandon pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter. Brandon was sentenced Monday to 13 years in prison. Prosecutors argued that they burglarized a car outside a Mount Hope home, which led to a shootout with the homeowner. They tried to get away, but a blown-out tire caused them to stall on the freeway. Adams stopped to help, but Edson Acuna shot him, thinking he was the homeowner from the shootout earlier in the night. 2 others who were in the brothers' car, Harvey Liberato and Susana Galvan, have entered plea agreements. And the judge concluded by telling the courtroom he hopes both men reflect in the years to come on the magnitude of the loss that their actions caused. Jennifer Kastner, ABC 10 News.
The king tides along our coast are expected to last into tomorrow in some areas. Sky 10 was overhead this morning as some of the waves broke close to homes in Imperial Beach. Although the king tides caused some beach erosion in IB last year, it's unlikely this time.
And right now we do have the king tide, but the surf isn't quite big enough to where it's going to make that drastic of a impact on the coastal erosion.
The waves are expected to reach up to 7 feet. King tides happen when the sun, moon, and earth are in alignment, and the moon is in its closest position to the earth. Wow.